Hey guys, this is Bales. I'm at DraftKings and going to analyze my best lineup and worst lineup from week 2, just in terms of points scored. And I'm going to try to do this every week. And I think it's important not to overreact to a single data point or a single week, but I still think there's value in analyzing what you did and with more information going back and see if there's anything that you can refine in your process. And I especially think that it's valuable to look at ownership, just because that's sort of, ownership is what it is. There's not a massive range of ownership percentages that a guy could have in theory, whereas on-field performance is potentially a lot flukier, can get thrown off by little things, a missed tackle or whatever, especially in an event-based sport like football. There's just a very wide range of outcomes, and so reacting to a single player score might not make all that much sense, but his ownership, I think continually looking to see if you're predicting that in the right way does make more sense. So overall, week 2 was bad for me. Not a disaster, certainly not as profitable as week 1, not profitable at all actually, so definitely not as profitable. So my top, I think I had 20 entries in the Millionaire Maker. Top one scored only 173. And so we're looking at it right now. It was a Dalton, Gio, LaFell stack. I didn't do this too much without AJ Green. I had AJ Green, but I did really like both of those players, and I've been using running backs with receivers more, assuming they catch passes. So Gio's, he's a running back, but you can also sort of think of him as a slot receiver. He's, maybe similar to like a Randall Cobb, where he's in the backfield a lot, and he's just sort of has a fluid position. So the fact that he's categorized in a certain way shouldn't really change how we perceive his upside and risk and things like that. So I just thought that was a really good spot for him in a game that could turn into a shootout. It didn't, but Gio still played really well, going over 100 yards receiving, 9 catches and touchdown. So that was what I wanted out of him. And so I went with that Dalton, Gio, and LaFell stack. LaFell, I got all of them under 2%. So that was a huge win for me. And even though LaFell had only 3 for 39, I think that thought was still pretty good. Could have just gone Dalton, Gio, and then of course I did have AJ in a bunch of lineups as well. Lamar Miller, pure workload, and even in the matchup that maybe wasn't the best, given the price and his workload, I'll take that at 6%. Julian Edelman, 7%. I didn't have too much exposure to him. This is just sort of a random that he was in this particular lineup, so that wasn't even I was definitely on Edelman at less than the field at 7%. He might have been in one lineup of mine. Tyrell Williams, I think, was my top exposure at wide receiver. It was Tyrell Williams and Julio Jones, and I had Tyrell, and I think maybe over half of at least half of the money I had in play was in Tyrell. So I'll take 15.1 points. Of course, I knew everyone was going to be on Travis Benjamin. I had some. I wish I had more, obviously, given his ownership. I thought it was going to be sort of through the roof, and it wasn't. And just a mistake probably to fade a receiver that was that cheap, that was moving into a new role. So but the Tyrell play still worked out. Greg Olsen at tight end. I think tight end production is most correlated with their team implied total, more so than any other skill position, and that was a pretty clear, a good spot for the Panthers and Cam. And this is another example. I think Olsen had, it was a 75-yard touchdown or something like that. So if he doesn't have that, his game is pretty poor. So just one play completely skews the results. Julio Jones was my top exposure because anytime I can get an elite receiver, so we're talking Julio, Antonio Brown, DeAndre, those top guys at relatively low ownership. I believe we had him projected at 5 to 8, so not too far off. He was at 9.5%. And those ownership projections, by the way, on FantasyLabs have been really accurate so far and really, really helpful in building tournament lineups. But pretty much any time, regardless of the matchup, that I can do that, that's where I'll be, and I'll be rostering those guys, especially if I'm going cheap at running back with someone like Gio. And then at defense, I believe I had 4 primary defenses that I used. The Cardinals, I did really well in defense this week, except for one. It was the Cardinals, the Lions, the Broncos, and all of them crushed, and then the Raiders. And the thinking was all of those teams were the favorites, and they were playing quarterbacks that I thought when they get down, they're going to throw a lot and potentially force the ball. So that was the thinking here with the Cardinals going against Jameis, and as big favorites, that one worked out. And to get them at 2.4% was really good. I was shocked, actually, that they were there given the spread, because I think people probably look. The biggest piece of advice with defense that I could give is people look too much at the opposing team's implied total, and it really doesn't matter that much. Opposing offense can score points, and it doesn't really hurt defenses in terms of fantasy. That's not how they generally accrue points. They get fantasy points from sacks, takeaways, and pick sixes returns. So the spread is a lot more predictive of fantasy value for defenses than the opposing team's implied total. So you don't need the opposing team projected at 17 points. It's actually good if they project a little higher, you'll get them at lower ownership. So looking at those defenses that are maybe projected to be in high scoring games, but they're still a decent favorite, maybe like a 27-23 game or something like that as the projected total in Vegas. Those are situations I like to target because you generally get low ownership and a team that should be up late. So let's look at my worst lineup, 83 points, total disaster, but you actually see a lot of the same strategies. So I still had the quarterback, running back, receiver combination in Rivers, Woodhead, and Tyrell. Woodhead obviously got hurt, and that's what pretty much killed my week. Those 2 running backs you see, actually, Woodhead and Ingram, I had a bunch of both. They were my top running backs that I used, along with David Johnson, who also underperformed. So did pretty well at receiver and defense, and at quarterback too, but got killed at running back. But yeah, Woodhead's production is very correlated with Rivers. Similar idea to Gio there. And then, of course, I love Tyrell and still do moving forward. He's a big receiver who I think fits well with the way that Rivers throws. Then we have Antonio. I think I probably had about, I think I had maybe 15% exposure to him. So it was about where the field was. In hindsight, maybe that's a fade situation, but honestly, I just didn't really want to take on the risk of getting away from a couple of those guys. And then same thing with Odell, where I did have less than the field just because he was so high owned on both Odell and Eli. But both of those guys were coming up pretty low in FantasyLabs models for whatever reason, in a variety of different things in terms of rating, and then some trends I created to help predict ownership, which we have historically in trends on FantasyLabs. And yeah, that was just kind of a hedge for me that didn't work out. Emmanuel Sanders was another guy that I used quite a bit, certainly more than his 7% ownership. I liked him whether Demaryius played or not, and I thought that was just a good spot to get a receiver who was coming off of a bad game, was going to have low ownership. I thought it was going to be less than 7. I thought it was going to be under 5. But still, I don't think it was necessarily a bad play per se. And then the Raiders D. So did really well on the other defenses. But looking back, I think that probably made a mistake on the Raiders. They were projected to win by a decent number of points, but so for example, the reason that I was on the Lions was it was a very similar line. Both defenses I don't know are that great. The Lions are potentially a lot better than the Raiders, so that was one mistake. Just don't play really shitty defenses, perhaps. But I think the main difference was I was looking at quarterbacks I thought could potentially, just if they get down and things don't go their way, they're gonna be really good quarterbacks to face for a fantasy defense, because they'll take some shots. Matt Ryan and Mariota, who the Lions were facing. The difference was, if you look on FantasyLabs, so we have sack rate, which is the percentage of dropbacks a quarterback takes a sack. Some of that is on the line, but most of a quarterback's sack rate is on the quarterback. Certain quarterbacks just hold on to the ball. And if you look at, I think Peyton Manning had the lowest sack rate in the league for 5 straight years or 6 straight years. It's just he had completely different linemen. It's statistically almost impossible that would happen if it were solely due to the line. So I think the offensive line is pretty overrated in terms of an offense's pass protection, and certain quarterbacks just continually, whether it's the nature of their offense or reading things faster, get the ball out much quicker and will continue to take a low number of sacks. And if you look at Matt Ryan's sack rate, he is a guy that does get the ball out fast. That's how they coach him, and that's what he does. So he's near the bottom of the league in sack rate, whereas Mariota, one reason I got on the Lions late is he is at 8.8%, takes a lot of sacks. He holds onto the ball, and you will see a lot of scrambling quarterbacks. Russell Wilson there too, Aaron Rodgers, some mobile guys. But that's just the nature of it. They're going to try to make something happen, and so Mariota takes a lot of sacks, and we've seen now 2 weeks in a row can make some bad decisions as well. And so that was my thinking there. But with the Raiders, but I think I made a mistake here on the Raiders because of that. You have a quarterback who's just not holding on to the football, which is really, really important to fantasy scoring for a defense. So I think I made a mistake there. That was the main difference between that play and the Lions' defensive play. But so those were what I thought were my best and worst lineups. Not a good week overall, but definitely looking to reassess some things, and I'm going to take a deeper look at these ownership percentages too, and where I'm going wrong perhaps on projecting ownership, missing on someone like Woodhead, not thinking he's going to be 21% owned, and then some other guys being lower than I expected, like Travis Benjamin. So that's the main thing that I'm working on now, not overreacting to on-field performance, but actually putting a pretty good amount of stock into the ownership percentages that we're seeing and what's predicting those.